Welcome to Overcoming Anything, the podcast where we dive deep into stories of resilience, transformation, and growth. I'm your host, Anne, and today we have an incredible guest who is sharing insights on how to overcome cancer. So joining me today is Bob Ross. He is a medical physicist and clinical healer whose breakthrough cancer research, rapid healing techniques, and decades on the front lines of emergency medicine, including working alongside the United States Secret Service, has helped thousands resolve illness and trauma at the root cause. This is going to be so exciting. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, before we dive in, I always love to ask, what's one quote or mantra that keeps you going in tough times?
When I was a kid, I remember something really bad happened, and my father said, "Son, bad things happen in life, and they can either make you bitter or better, and the choice is yours."
Ooh, like that.
Then I know how that was going to greatly serve me.
Better or better. On this podcast, we only want better. So let's start at the beginning. What is the most difficult thing that you've ever had to overcome in your life?
Boy, you're going to get hit hard right from the beginning, aren't you?
That's right.
But that's why we're...
Out of the gate, here we come.
Here we go. Before we begin, since we're going to be talking about medical things, including cancer, I need to make this disclaimer.
Perfect.
This conversation is not to be construed as medical advice. Always consult a healthcare professional prior to starting or changing any treatment program. Very important.
Yes, thank you.
Beautiful. So I've always had the passion to help people. In fact, when I was 6 years old, I had a little siren on my bicycle that I ride around the neighborhood bandaging people up, even if they didn't need it.
Free Band-Aids.
And the ironic thing, since I went into medicine later in life, is my father was a mortician.
Wow, that's interesting.
His father was a mortician. It was a family business, and I was the oldest boy. I was supposed to be an undertaker.
Whoa.
Yes.
So how did you navigate out of that without upsetting the family lineage?
That's the unbelievable gift. I was so blessed to have the parents I had. And I was like a junior in high school, and they say, "Hey, we have an offer. Someone wants to buy the business, but if you want to follow in our footsteps, it's yours. It won't sell. But if we understand this isn't for everybody," and they knew I had a real love for physics and music. And so I said, "No, I want to do, something else." And it was kind of funny because after then, my dad would say, "Son, you're bad for business." The best compliment you can.
Yeah, our family's got you. We got you on the front end and we got you on the back end.
That's right. My grandfather was a famous research chemist and 150 patents in my family line. So I've always been interested in science. And so I got an undergraduate degree in physics, specializing in nuclear physics. And then I went to a very famous medical school to work on a PhD in medical physics, focusing on the application for treating cancer patients. And when I was there, I helped make one of the biggest breakthroughs ever in cancer therapy. It's called the hyperthermia effect, hyper meaning increase. So we discovered that if you increase the temperature of a cancer cells, it made them weak. So if you heat up the body before a treatment, like sauna, nowadays we have infrared, which is even better, heat up the body, you would use less chemo and less radiation.
Wow.
Which also meant less side effects.
Yeah.
So we went through the scientific process, peer reviewed, all that, and it basically got suppressed in the U.S. And I came to find out later because it was cut into 80, we had estimated maybe even 80% less chemo and radiation. Well, that's 80% of our profit. Well, what about the patient? So the good news is before they got suppressed, the world where it's not for profit, like East Asia and Germany and Mexico, the first thing they'll do when you go into a cancer clinic is heat up your body. So any treatment they give you is going to work better because you've made the cancer cells weak. Isn't that wild?
Yes.
So obviously I was just disgusted because I got into medicine to help people.
Right.
And I spent 11 years in school. I finished my internship and I walked away from the field of traditional cancer therapy.
Wow.
Because when I was there, I needed more adversity. I was diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. And I actually put together a 45-minute masterclass on my website that's free that talks kind of that story and the process I went through. And I treated myself like a patient. That kind of was a good coping mechanism for me. And I was in intensive care and they did barbaric things to me. They were trying to help me. I understand that, but it was barbaric, just incredible. And that's when reality hit and coping with that and how to make yourself hostile body to make your body, how to make your body hostile to cancer cells, right? And what to do if you're diagnosed, how to activate the placebo effect on purpose, things of that nature. But that actually followed later because of more challenges in life. And I'm happy to say I'm doing well, by the way.
Oh, that's good. So you fully recovered. So let me ask you, did you heat up your body before you went for your procedures?
I didn't do procedures.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was inoperable, too deep, and no procedures.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I walked away from the field, I did my music and comedy. I played trumpet and sing, stand-up comedy, some voiceover work. And I always had that love since I was 6 years old for emergency medicine. medicine. And so I joined a fire department on their EMS reserve, which means I volunteer my services, don't get paid, but that gave me the flexibility to do all these different things, which is great. And one of the things that has developed with that is increasing my intuition. So I didn't realize I was getting these intuitive hits all the time, and I didn't know it. And so I wouldn't I paid attention. Oh, that's interesting, but I wouldn't do it. But now, since I'm paying attention, literally, let's say I'm at an event of one of the big stadium here, I'll literally hear if I'm assigned like to tunnel 5, go to tunnel 1. No, I'm supposed to be tunnel 5. Ooh. So if it doesn't make sense, I know it's a good hit. And usually within 20 seconds of getting there, somebody needs my help.
Wow.
And sometimes they would have died otherwise.
You are a true conduit for God and source energy to be at the right place at the right time to save people.
I love it.
You definitely have a purpose. And, as what I've experienced having this podcast is so many times the biggest trials and tribulations in our life, if we are able to see it through to the end, become our biggest gift. And it sounds like, though, unfortunately, you were diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor, it gave you the drive and the motivation to find this process and to create all that you've done. So tell us more. This is so exciting. Was there a specific moment when everything just felt impossible for you when you were diagnosed with this inoperable brain tumor? What was the first thing that went through your mind, and how did you put together the plan to heal yourself?
Well, it certainly was overwhelming, and I did not have a plan to heal myself because I was taught in the standard medical model. In fact, the medical model is we're going to kill cancer cells, as opposed to how can we help the body heal from cancer?
Right. So true.
Because one of the things that just boggled me is, how kids say, why? Why, Uncle Bob? Why is the sky blue? Why? So I was saying, well, why did I get this? What caused this? Well, that's not our focus. We're focused on what to do right now. Yeah, but we got to solve the cause. My favorite example, if you move into a new house or apartment, and unbeknownst to you, there's radioactive cobalt underneath the floor in your bedroom, that exposure to that radiation could actually give you cancer. Okay? And let's say you go get treated, but if you come back and it's still there, the cause is still there, right? Duplicates.
Right.
That's why the focus needs to be on how do we help the body heal. In fact, one of the turning points for me was another challenge was when life just kind of fell apart. So not just in one area, but like in all areas at the same time. It was crazy making. I was so depressed. And literally I had emotional tunnel vision. All I could see was what was wrong in life. And it was bad. And so I went to a PhD psychologist, good, sharp mind, and he asked great questions. And after, 5-6 sessions, he said, I think I've got the insight. I go, okay, tell me, you have a fear of success. Well, get out of here.
What? I just paid for that?
I've been working hard to be successful. He says, no, that's my interpretation of what's going on. And I said, okay, well, then what do I do? How do I resolve that? Well, Bob, that's not for me to say. Well, of course it is. You're the expert. No, it's up to you. But you're the expert. Tell me what to do and I will do it. No, you're the expert. As awful as that was a beautiful thing to happen because that pushed me. Now, why in the world would I have a fear of success when I want to be successful? Okay? And because of having the diagnosis of the brain tumor, I go, well, how did my brain keep functioning at this high level when I had part of it basically missing?
Right.
So that dove me and it forced me. In fact, I started studying with Tony Robbins in person and Eckhart Tolle. The biggest breakthrough was actually working with Gary Craig, who invented EFT, which is also known as tapping.
Yes, I love it.
Yes. And there are a lot of versions of it out there that aren't very good, right? But the great thing is the essence of the effectiveness of tapping is on the electrical nature of the body. So whenever there's any kind of an emotional trauma, it actually results in an electrical disturbance in our nervous system. It's like an electrical tumor, and it'll be there until it's dissolved. That's why talk therapy is great initially. We do that in the fire department. After a bad run, boy, we talk about it, right? That's great. But it's an electrical problem in our nervous system. And it turns out, and your readers can actually get my training on this for free on EFT. They'll either the 3-minute stress release follow along video, because if you tap on very specific spots, like at the start of the eyebrow is one of them, it'll literally sends electrical signal down that nerve. And if you're focusing on the trauma, it'll send it to that electrical disturbance in the nervous system because your mind knows where that is. And it literally defibrillates it like we do with the heart and cardiac arrest. It's a problem. We treat it with electricity. And I am seeing miracles. People with post-traumatic stress disorder, phobias for 46, 50 years, gone in one session.
Does it heal neuropathy? Because you were talking about the nerve centers.
Well, I shouldn't say this, but anyway, I've used this to actually stop irregular heartbeats. Not on duty. I wasn't on duty with the fire department. I have to.
Right.
like the LA County protocol. But, I was out with someone and they were having heartbeats and stopped it, all sorts of incredible things. And that's the wonderful thing about this is it doesn't hurt to try. And the body can't heal unless it's in that relaxed state. And I was anything but relaxed when I got my diagnosis. I was actually interfering with any healing because I was so, right, which is normal. There's no judgment about that at all. So what I discovered in this deep dive is that because of trauma that happens, usually from early childhood, we'll have these limiting beliefs. And a limiting belief is a belief, and the goal of it is for your brain to keep you safe. So because of my childhood issues, I didn't want to be seen. I didn't think it was safe to be seen. Well, if you're successful, you're going to be seen. That's why I was sabotaging. My friends would saw this. They go, Bob, what'd you do that for? I don't know, man. This is the best thing that could have happened. And then I just blew it up, right? Because your brain wants to keep you safe. So once you understand how to focus in on that tapping and resolve that trauma, then you can convince the subconscious mind that it's safe, in my case, to be successful, to be seen in particular, right? Huge. And if you don't solve that, well, if I might say,
please do.
As this progressed, so I modified, I call it my hidden secret brain technique, right? To reprogram those subconscious beliefs. And I found that the mind always has to answer a question, even if it's a stupid question. And we ask ourselves questions all the time, and most of them are negative. Why can't I be? Why am I always late? Why am I such a bad uncle? And your subconscious mind is going to tell you why. Well, one simple thing that people can do, ask a better question. In fact, make it a positive question. So as an example, let's say I have a belief that I'm a bad uncle. Well, flip it to say, how am I a great uncle? Not how can I be? Because that's the future. Your subconscious mind does not know future. It only knows right now. Eckhart, the power of now. Only knows right now, right? How am I a great uncle? Ooh, the brain has to answer that question, and it's going to find ways to be a great uncle. And that's where the intuition comes in, because you'll get these little intuitive hits, I call them, to do something, right? And they'll be creative and all say, oh, Uncle Bob, you're the best.
I love it. I've heard that before, to ask positive questions, because it helps your body formulate and create that.
I've helped people, like there was a gentleman that had been back from Afghanistan, and he was severe post-traumatic stress disorder was so bad that he'd been in the VA for a year, in-house.
Wow.
Very, very little progress. And in one section, we had more progress than a whole year of in-house.
That's so amazing.
Yes. And it's so exciting. Well, when I was treating cancer patients, I found that probably 85% of my patients with cancer had unresolved emotional trauma. Now, that would make sense from a physiological standpoint, right? Especially like bitterness, unforgiveness, right? Suppresses the immune system, makes you more vulnerable, because we actually get cancer every day of our lives. Every day cancer cells pop up. If you have a healthy immune system, it's not a big deal because it's designed to scan for that, produce interferon, interleukin, neoplasms, take care of it. But when I was in the medical school program, I never could understand. Some people would get kidney cancer. Some people would get thyroid cancer. So when I was in the medical school program, I was kidney cancer, and they said, well, it's probably genetics. It turns out it's not. This is probably the biggest breakthrough ever in medicine right here. I'm going to reveal it.
Okay, drum roll.
So I think I mentioned that there are like 150 patents in my family line of all these inventions. And what often happens with inventions is someone clear around the world can get the same idea. And most people don't do anything about it, right?
Right.
And a physician in Germany who specialized in cancer therapy got the same insight, and he had thousands and thousands of cancer patients, and he was a meticulous scientist. So he noticed that, now this is interesting, everyone with kidney cancer has this kind of an emotional trauma.
Wow.
And as a result of what he did, he found that probably 80% of cancers are actually caused by what we call an emotional shock event. So it has to be sudden, unexpected, catch you off guard. A good example would be if a mom's child got hit by a car. Now, not witnessing it, because then that causes the post-traumatic stress disorder, right?
Right.
But just gets the phone call, your son's been hit by a car, right? So that will cause a biological response in the body. So probably the most practical example of this is actually from twisting your ankle. And we've known this physically. So if you twist your ankle, the biological response is inflammation. Now, it doesn't feel good. It's uncomfortable, right? And what do they say? Oh, take ibuprofen to cut the inflammation. Wrap that thing real tight, cut that inflammation. Put ice in there to cut the inflammation. So, Anne, here's the key. Every biological response is positive. It may not feel good. It is positive. A lot of the symptoms we get when we think we're sick are actually the symptoms of healing.
So that pain, that inflammation is healing, the body just healing itself?
Yes, because that gets more blood and oxygen to the site to heal it faster. So all our attempts to reduce that inflammation is actually slowing down the healing process. So, Anne, what do you think the body does to that inflammation when the ankle is healed and it doesn't need it anymore?
It's trapped there?
It takes it away.
Oh, it takes it away. Okay.
Automatically. It's built in. That that was the big key. It's always a 3-step process. There's trauma, there's a biological response, and there's then the healing. So here's probably the best of examples of all. Best of examples? That wasn't good English there, Bob. Mother would slap your little hands right there. So probably the best example is a man whose child dies suddenly. Well, the biological response, that emotional shock, is his testosterone goes through the roof. Now, there's always a positive reason for that. Can you guess what that is, Anne? Why would his testosterone go through the roof?
Maybe because biologically he'd be ready to have another child.
Way to go. Make him more virile. Why? To
Right.
replace the child who died.
Wow. Ooh, I got goosebumps when you said that.
But the downside is it gives what we call test cancer. And it turns out that as soon as his wife gets pregnant, or, and this is the best part, he just resolves that emotional trauma of his child dying, the body, conflict active phase where you get the tumor, and the body has the ability to literally dissolve the tumor.
Wow.
Built
That
into
is
us, yes, built into us is the ability, and we hear stories of this all the time, like spontaneous remissions and all that. Well, that means the body has that ability to do it. So what he found, and this is where I come in, he had a meticulous, like 400-page PDF that he and his colleagues put out showing all the correlations. And by the way, 100% correlation every single time. If a person had this kind of trauma, that's the kind of cancer they have. But it turns out that if that same kind of trauma, but a little different, instead of giving thyroid cancer, would give hypothyroidism.
Wow.
So literally probably 80% of medical problems are caused by the same emotional shock, but a different angle of it, right?
Right.
So what he discovered is that if it took 8 months for your body to heal that emotional trauma, it would take 8 months for your body to heal. It was always a 1-to-1. And that's when my little brain went, wait. The only reason the brain would take that long to orchestrate, because our subconscious mind orchestrates our heartbeat and keeps that going and regulates healing and all that, to think it's safe to do it. It needs to take a year to be safe. So I modified my hidden secret brain technique to first off heal that whatever the emotional shock trauma was, which instantly sets them in the healing phase automatically. That's built into the body.
Right.
And to speed it up to as safe as possible, which sometimes can include instant. It could be just instantly healed. Sometimes it might take a couple of days, couple of weeks, who knows? But again, the body will do it as safe as possible. And again, I'm not giving medical advice. I'm telling you what has been discovered and is being seen with unbelievable success.
Wow, this is mind-blowing.
Isn't it mind-blowing?
Yes. So going back to, let's say, the ankle, for example, because you said the inflammation is actually part of the healing.
Yes.
So when the healing, for example, would take longer than normal, is that because there are still emotions that are causing or holding on to the inflammation and it's taking longer to heal?
So that example of the ankle is just from the physical end.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All
So
right.
that'd be like in the 20%
Okay.
of illness is because of physical trauma of some sort, exposure to
Okay.
radiation, right? All that. By the way, that's what I love about emergency medicine. We are the best in the world for emergency medicine because we focus on what's important. Our focus is to stabilize and help them do what they can't do. Even in CPR. You open their airway, you check for breathing, right? Check circulation. Once you have assessed the patient, you call 911, ask to be transferred to the fire department because it's the police that answer 911 calls everywhere in the country, right? Because 9 out of 10 calls need the police, but you want the fire department to say, please transfer me to the fire department. Okay? And then I do for them what they can't do for themselves in terms of the airway, breathing, circulation, ABCs. Oh, so I open the airway. B, I breathe in there twice. C, I'm going to push their chest in and crush the chest in to squeeze the blood out of the heart 30 times, providing artificial circulation.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, that is so amazing. So what life lessons did this whole experience of going through all of this give you?
Probably the most significant life lesson was that the body is designed to heal. And our goal needs to be to help the body heal. I remember as a kid, I was very fortunate. I was raised in a wonderful, loving Christian family. I mean, it was true Christianity, love, grace, mercy, forgiveness. And kids would flock to our house, right? But to me, it was just normal. So I went to their house and went, oh man, right? And I could never understand why in Scripture God asked for our faith in terms of like physical healing. Well, why does God need my faith? Is God saying, oh, I can't pull this off on my own? Oh, if only Bobby Boy would believe. That never made sense. I could never get an answer because it's one of the mysteries of Scripture. And I got it. Again, like these intuitions, like a God download, right?
Yes.
So it turns out people that get the placebo effect, right? They get a sugar pill and that they get healed, but they weren't given the drug. In fact, if they tell them about the side effects, they'll has side effects, but they weren't given anything. That means the mind has that ability to provide that healing without an outside source. And the people that get the placebo effect, here's the biggie, those that believed it was the real drug or believed it was going to work. And that's what faith is. Faith is believing something is going to happen.
Right. So do you recommend that people have that certainty and that faith that they can heal themselves? Is that like the first prerequisite to all of this work, is believing that you can heal yourself?
Absolutely. In fact, one of the great things about this new model, by the way, they're really working strongly to suppress this, as you can imagine, is that we don't have to fear. Like, I was in terrible fear, but if I knew then with my diagnosis, I know now, I wouldn't be in such fear. Now, again, we want to help the body in the healing process. So for instance, we want a strong immune system. We need all the essential minerals, especially things of that nature, right? So things we can do. But again, it's just helping the body do what the body is actually doing. In fact, when I was in the medical school program, they were so upset about that placebo effect. Oh, it's always getting in the way of our research. I go, but if the mind can do that, why don't we do that on purpose? Well, Bob, we can't patent that. We can't make any money on it. You're not listening.
Don't get me started on that.
Yes.
Big pharma, everything comes down to money. Money, money, money.
Yes. It's important that the physicians themselves aren't bad people. They were taught this model. And because of the structure that's set up in medicine, they have to follow the model. Even in cancer therapy, right? They're not supposed to go out of this box. So it's not the physician that's bad. It's actually what they're taught. And I saw this when I was there. Well, I probably shouldn't use the word brainwashing, but technically, if you're told something, you believe it, but it's actually not true, that's brainwashing.
Right.
They firmly believe that this is correct and they're helping people. This is the best thing, they can do. Yeah.
So what was the biggest mindset shift that really helped you change the way that you see medicine?
Well, I saw myself as a victim, and I didn't realize that I actually had a part in the healing process.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, we're told you go to the doctor and the doctor's going to heal you. So probably a great practical example is if you break your arm and the doctor realigns it and puts it in a cast. The doctor did not heal your arm. Your body healed itself by putting the two ends of the bone together so they're aligned, right? Keeping it still. The body literally reattaches those ends of the bone and actually, they say, makes it stronger than the bone was before it broke. So that kind of throws the model of, the doctor heal this for me. It's oh no, I'm going to help your body heal. So they actually know this in trauma and things, but it's kind of not expanded to general medicine.
And how do you see that theory that your body regenerates itself every 7 years so you can get essentially a whole new body? So how does that play into the emotional healing and how you can heal yourself?
So that's actually a good example because cancer cells die. They have a life, right? And guess what they do? They replace themselves with an identical cancer cell. Unless you interrupt that flow, like if your normal body healing replaces, that's good. We want that to happen. But we don't want the cancer cells to duplicate itself. Same with viruses. Viruses will die. That's the thing about like zinc, when you have a virus, is it helps stop the cells from duplicating. So you'll heal faster. And again, it's the zinc that's just helping your body do what the body's already able to do. Because you can heal, from cold and the flu without taking any medicine, right? Even the over-the-counter stuff, you don't need it. In fact, some of the over-the-counter things can actually slow your body healing because the symptoms that we don't like are actually the symptoms of your body healing.
That's so interesting because nobody says that. No one says that. That's
Exactly.
profound. So looking back, was there a single decision or action that made the biggest difference in the course of your life?
Yes, being willing to go against the norm.
And that cost you career-wise?
So the big cost was I spent all those years in school. I could have made a lot of money working as a medical physicist. So that cost me a lot. But I, especially knowing what I know now, that would have been just miserable. Right? So yes, there was a cost, but there was a great benefit and much better than the cost. Yes.
So do you have any advice for students that are maybe looking to go into medicine as a career?
Yes, because there are forms of training. For instance, a naturopath. So they're medical doctor and their training is focusing on helping the body heal. So that's why they'll go to things in nature first. If you think about this, our bodies are 100% natural, unless you had like a knee replacement or something, right?
Right.
The only thing our mind knows is what's from nature. So high fructose corn syrup, that's man-made chemical. Our brains have no idea what that is because it's not from nature. So that's why when you consume high fructose corn syrup, your body overestimates how much sugar it is. And you therefore produce too much insulin. So you get that nice sugar spike, but you produce too much insulin, so it takes it away and makes you hypoglycemic, and you get the shakes. And over time, that wears out your pancreas, makes your cells less receptive, and then you have now type 2 diabetes. And cancer cells, just so you know, they thrive on refined processed sugar.
Yes.
But if you take the whole orange, the whole apple, the whole fruit, that actually helps the body kill cancer cells, which it does every day.
Yes. Instead of sugar, go for the fruit, the real sugar. Yes.
And there are cases, and I'm a firm believer in prescription drugs for emergencies. Like if blood pressure is extremely high, you want that to drop it down so they don't have a stroke, right? But now we got to get to why do they have that high blood pressure, as opposed to giving medications to force it to be down, right? We want to help, okay, why, what's the cause? There's always a cause. There's always a cause, and get to the cause. And now that we know what we know, and that's what's in my new cancer coaching program, is how to activate all these things. I've put together guided audios so people can be all around the world and just push play, and it guides them through the whole process of the emotional healing of the trauma and separating that trauma from the biological response, and then switching into the healing and speeding up the healing phase. And that's what's so exciting is now, here's a practical example. I recently was having problems with my wrist, and I went, well, you have carpal tunnel syndrome. I go, what? I don't do a lot of repetitive things. That doesn't make any sense. And all of a sudden, Bobby boy, wait a minute, dig deep. When did this start? Right? I formed a timeline. Yeah, okay. What happened? What emotional shock happened before that had to do with your hands? And it hit. It was a high drama call, and I went to reach for something and didn't get it. I was frustrated. It didn't hurt the patient at all. It didn't delay care at all, but I was just, frustrated. That was an emotional shock. And guess what? That's affected this. So now that I've just literally acknowledged that that's the connection, my body automatically went into the healing phase. And now I'm using the technique to actually speed the process.
So was that a recent event that transpired that caused the pain in your wrist, or was it a long time ago that got re-triggered because you never processed the emotion from before?
So it was a year ago.
Okay.
And that's a really good point, Anne. So unless we resolve that emotional trauma, there'll be triggers. Just like someone coming back from Afghanistan. If they hear a loud noise, they throw themselves on the ground. Incoming! Because that emotional trauma in their nervous system is getting triggers, like poking the bear, and it's instantaneous. Well, that's the beautiful thing about the EFT tapping, is it literally dissolves it. So for instance, a person had a phobia for dogs for like 46 years. We resolved it in one session. He couldn't give it upset. And it's been 3 years. He's now even adopted a dog. And he would jump up top of a car, even a little tiny dog, right? Because that something happened. He was being chased by a dog when he was like 6 or 7 years old. The dog was foaming at the mouth and trying to bite him. Right. So that's the exciting part of all this.
Well, it was funny. As you were saying that, I kind of got the intuitive download that we could also do that on dogs. Because you know how like dogs may have heard like a big boom and then they get emotionally reactive and triggered. I don't know where you tap on the dog's body, but maybe there's a way that you can kind of tap that out of their nervous system too.
Actually, that's a very good point. And I'm sure people have checked into where those actual spots are. They may be very similar, like one's on the top of our head, one's on the start of the eyebrow. That may be, I would imagine, it's probably the same thing on animals.
I'll have to research that because my dog's emotionally reactive. So there was a hurricane coming and we have this like power lines behind our house, and something happened and boom, it exploded. And after that, my dog was not the same. So I'm going to research that. So thank you.
Yeah,
so this has just been so amazing. Such great advice, ways to help our listeners. So for someone listening who's stuck with a diagnosis, a trauma, chronic symptoms, what is the first step that they can take to move from fear into healing?
To realize that you're more powerful than you know. And just reflect on any time you got sick and your body instantly went into the healing phase. And here's a good example. After hyperthermia breakthrough, they discovered that viruses have the same hyperthermia. So if you increase the temperature of a virus, it makes them weaker. So what does your body do to make the virus weaker? seeker to help you heal.
You get a fever.
Yes. It's a beautiful thing unless it goes too high, but that's very, very rare, right? It's got to go like 104, 105 before we, go to the panic. And yet, if you call, hey, doc, I've got a temperature of 101, what's the advice they normally give?
Take Motrin, take Tylenol, or bring the fever down.
Cut the fever. Again, it's not their fault. They're taught this. And yet, biology, that's the great thing about everything we talked about. We're just tapping into biology and how God designed it. In fact, God designed us to heal, and our job is to help that happen. So in this case, if you have a fever, embrace it. Don't take anything to cut the fever. And often people will say, oh yeah, I started sweating and I had this sweat thing, and then I felt like $1 million. It was gone. Well,
body took care of itself.
There you go.
Any advice for helping people try to figure out what the root cause is of their symptoms or of their disease?
Yeah, getting access to that information is tough. That's one of the reasons I put together this coaching program. So a colleague put together actually an AI that goes through like that 400-page PDF and all the other research that has been in this area to make it very, very simple to find out what the various types of emotional cause, what the symptoms are in each phase, even the healing phase. Remember, when your body's healing, it actually can have symptoms. We call it the healing crisis. And people freak out, oh, I'm having these symptoms. But if they understand, oh, that exactly matches what the healing phase is. So I invite people to learn more. They can go to my website.
So where can they follow you and where can they find you? What's the name of your website?
I think you're going to like the name. The Hidden Secret to Healing.
Love it. Love it.
The Hidden Secret to Healing.com. And for the EFT, it's the same thing, the Hidden Secret to Healing.com/EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And then for emotional healing, I put together a separate site. For instance, if they need some one-on-one help from me, it's the Hidden Secret to Emotional Healing.
I love it. We'll link all of that down in show notes to make it easy for everyone. Any social media channels they can follow you and continue to binge your wisdom?
So I am developing a YouTube channel at The Hidden Secret to Healing. So kind of the common theme makes it easier for people. And I'm putting up some podcast appearances. I'll put this podcast appearance up as well. Some new resources. I put together a little 7-minute video explaining this new breakthrough they call it Germanic New Medicine and how my brain technique can actually help and speed up the healing. So yeah.
Awesome. I almost forgot. Is there a book that helped you on your journey that you can recommend to our listeners?
I don't really recommend any books. Usually they're a lot of fluff and fill. They're usually incomplete. A classic example is the movie, and then they made it the book, The Secret. Now there was some great stuff in there, but it was incomplete because they didn't address limiting beliefs in the mind that were a little sabotage. You could put up a picture board and, oh, I want that, this, I need this, whatever. And that's helpful. But if your mind doesn't think it's safe to have those things, it'll never happen.
So true. So true.
So that's what I love about that 45-minute masterclass is they'll learn more there than I know of.
We'll put a direct link down in show notes. And thank you so much, Bob. This has been an amazing episode. So please share this episode if you find it helpful or if you know anyone that is facing a cancer diagnosis or a cancer treatment plan right now. See you next time on Overcoming Anything.